Even the simplest movie is a hugely complex beast with a ton of moving parts behind the scenes that we as mere moviegoers just aren't aware of. And even the seemingly basic act of hiring an actor for a role and then getting them in front of cameras can be a huge ordeal, because there are so many things that can cause an actor to pull out before shooting starts. I'm Ellie for What Culture, and here are 10 actors who just quit huge movies. Number 10. Paul Mescal, The Dog Stars. Providing yet further proof that Ridley Scott apparently doesn't sleep, the 87-year-old filmmaker is due to shoot 2 new movies this year. The Bee Gees biopic, You Should Be Dancing, and before that, an adaptation of Peter Heller's 2012 post-apocalyptic novel, The Dog Stars. Scott's Gladiator 2 star Paul Mescal was originally announced to be playing the lead role in the former, of a man who seeks out the source of a mysterious transmission in the wake of a world-ravaging pandemic. However, last December, Scott himself seemed well aware that Mescal would likely end up departing the project, noting that the actor was plenty busy preparing to play Paul McCartney in Sam Mendes' upcoming 4-film Beatles biopic saga. And indeed, by early January, Mescal had taken leave of The Dog Stars, with another hot up-and-coming actor, Jacob Elordi, swiftly being drafted in to take the part. Elordi's certainly a solid replacement, and given that he just finished working on Emerald Fennell's new Wuthering Heights adaptation, his schedule seems to have cleared just in time to start shooting with Scott in the upcoming weeks. Number 9. Tom Hardy, Blood on Snow. Blood on Snow is an upcoming adaptation of Joe Nesbo's 2015 crime thriller novel of the same name, with Nesbo translating his own source into a screenplay while Cary Fukunaga directs. Tom Hardy was initially set to star as one of the film's primary mob boss antagonists, known as the Fisherman, who was set to face off against Aaron Taylor-Johnson's protagonist, Olav. However, back in February, just as shooting was set to begin, Hardy departed the film due to, wait for it, unspecified scheduling conflicts. Given that Benedict Cumberbatch was immediately announced as his replacement, it's likely that Hardy actually exited the film much earlier than this, but the announcement was held back until the production had secured a new actor. It's easy to see how Hardy would bring a singular intensity to the role of a mob boss in a gritty crime thriller, while Cumberbatch's general vibe as an actor will likely make his rendition of the Fisherman quite different indeed. He's hardly the first actor you'd expect to sub in for Hardy, but it's an intriguing choice all the same. Number 8. Camila Mendes, I Know What You Did Last Summer. The upcoming I Know What You Did Last Summer legacy sequel will team original stars Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. with a group of younger leads, in much the same way that 2022's Scream requel bridged the gap between 2 eras. Last July, Camila Mendes was confirmed to be starring in the slasher sequel, which would reunite her with director Jennifer Caton Robinson, who previously helmed the Mendes-starring Netflix dark comedy Do Revenge. However, by September, Mendes had exited I Know What You Did Last Summer, apparently as a result of the ever-dreaded scheduling conflicts. In this case with Amazon's mega-budget adaptation of Masters of the Universe, in which Mendes will be playing the lead role of Teela. Though it isn't clear whether Mendes would be playing the Jennifer Love Hewitt-esque new lead in I Know What You Did Last Summer, given her higher star profile among the ensemble cast, it's certainly likely. It hasn't been confirmed precisely who ended up replacing Mendes, though considering that Che Sui Wonders joined the cast mere weeks later, she's probably a solid bet. Number 7. Matt Damon, Animals. Ben Affleck returns to the director's chair for his first foray into crime thriller territory since 2016's disappointing Live by Night. And in a fun twist, Affleck was originally set to direct his lifelong friend and regular collaborator Matt Damon in the lead role. Damon was planning to star in Netflix's Animals as Milo Bradford, a Los Angeles mayoral candidate whose son is kidnapped, forcing him to get his hands dirty in order to raise the ransom money. Though Damon was first announced to be leading the film back in January 2024. He ended up dropping out this past February due to scoring the lead role in Christopher Nolan's new epic, The Odyssey. At this point, Affleck decided to throw himself in the mix, taking over the role from his pal. On one hand, this allowed Affleck to keep the production going rather than grind it to a halt while seeking out a new lead elsewhere, but it also evidently meant a ton of extra work for him. Impressively, shooting started mere weeks after this switcheroo was made, though as director, Affleck should have already had a pretty strong grasp of his protagonist already. Number 6. Mark Ruffalo, Wild Horse 9. Back in February, it was announced that the great Martin McDonagh was gearing up to shoot his next film, Wild Horse 9. McDonagh's new movie is, shocker, an ensemble-led darkly comedic thriller, the particulars of which remain up in the air. Notably though, it's currently being shot in the remote locale of Easter Island. The cast was originally announced to be led by Sam Rockwell, John Malkovich, and Mark Ruffalo, though mere weeks after this, Ruffalo was revealed to have dropped out due to scheduling issues, with Steve Buscemi taking his place. Buscemi certainly seems like he'd be a fine fit for McDonagh's oddball sensibilities as a filmmaker, even if there's clearly a huge gulf between the acting styles of Ruffalo and Buscemi, seemingly ensuring the character will turn out quite differently in the latter's hands. Either way, Rockwell, Malkovich, and Ruffalo is one hell of a three-hander, not to ignore the wider cast being filled out by Parker Posey and Tom Waits. Number 5. Will Smith, Sugar Bandits. In February 2024, Will Smith was confirmed to be starring in Sugar Bandits, an $80 million action thriller based on Chuck Hogan's book Devils in Exile, with Smith playing an Iraq War veteran who teams up with fellow ex-soldiers to fight Boston's drug trade. Hogan also penned the script, while Stefano Sollima was attached to direct. However, Smith took leave of his acting duties on the film late last year after months of stalled production as his availability to shoot the project became uncertain. Though scheduling conflicts are cited as the reason for Smith's departure, it isn't clear precisely which other movie he walked away for. Smith will, however, remain on board as a producer, but the filmmakers are now faced with the tricky task of finding a replacement for Smith, whose starring role had helped pre-sell the film to distributors around the world. Needless to say, it won't be easy to find an actor with Smith's global appeal that'll satisfy everyone involved. Number 4. Sandra Hoola, Late Fame. Anatomy of a Fall and the Zone of Interest star Sandra Hoola is certainly following up on her star-making year in 2023 by winning herself roles in a number of juicy projects, including Late Fame, a new drama penned by Oscar-nominated writer Sammy Birch. The film revolves around a poetry author, Ed, played by Willem Dafoe, who gains sudden fame later in life, with Hoola originally signed to play Gloria, an artist who wants to get Ed's attention. However, Hoola dropped out late last year due to scheduling issues, likely due to her role in the currently filming new project from Alejandro G. Inarritu, where Hoola will star opposite Tom Cruise. Hoola ended up being replaced by Greta Lee, who herself enjoyed quite the boost to her career profile in 2023, courtesy of her starring role in the Oscar-nominated drama Past Lives. It's easy to picture Dafoe and Hoola having absolutely electric chemistry together, but at the same time, it's hard to consider Lee a disappointing replacement. Number 3. Chris Pratt, Fast. Yellowstone creator Taylor Sheridan has been working on the action thriller Fast for years at this point, with production originally planning to ramp up way back in 2018. Chris Pratt was locked in to star as a former special ops commando who is recruited by the DEA to take down drug dealers who are being protected by the CIA. Though Sheridan originally intended to direct the film himself, Gavin O'Connor later entered talks after Sheridan couldn't reach a deal, but word on the project ultimately dried up around the time of the pandemic. The pandemic, combined with the success of Sheridan's Yellowstone universe, may have caused the brakes to be pumped. Yet an industry insider recently reported that Fast is now back on the table. The big change? Pratt is no longer involved, and while the cause for his departure wasn't announced, there are a few possibilities. Scheduling issues, Pratt getting fed up with waiting, or his boosted star profile since 2018 making him too expensive for the budget. All the same, Pratt has apparently been replaced by Brandon Sklenar, best known for starring in Sheridan's Yellowstone spin-off series 1923. Number 2. Daniel Craig, Sergeant Rock. Last November, reports started doing the rounds that Daniel Craig was in talks to star in a film based on DC Comics superhero Sergeant Rock, a World War II soldier who possesses superhuman strength and endurance, as well as a sixth sense for impending danger, which he calls his combat antenna. Hollywood has been trying to get this film made for decades at this point, with the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis being involved at various earlier stages. This new take is being directed by Craig's queer filmmaker Luca Guadagnino, with Justin Kuritzkis, who penned both Queer and Guadagnino's previous film Challengers, writing the script. However, back in February, it was confirmed that Craig had walked away from the project for unspecified reasons, with reports indicating it was likely either due to scheduling conflicts with his wife Rachel Weisz, or disappointment with the commercial failure and awards underperformance of Queer. It didn't take long for Warner Brothers to find a replacement though, as Colin Farrell is currently in talks to play the lead role instead, and he'd certainly be an inspired choice. Number 1. Wen Phoenix, Todd Haynes' untitled drama. And finally, no recent story of an actor quitting a project has drawn more headlines than Wen Phoenix's sudden departure from Todd Haynes' new untitled drama. The film, said to be a sexually explicit film about two men falling in love in 1930s Los Angeles, was set to star Phoenix alongside Danny Ramirez. However, just 5 days before production was set to begin, Phoenix abruptly quit the film, with reports indicating that the actor, who is famous for having second thoughts about numerous films he's worked on, got cold feet about the project. It's an especially odd outcome though, given that the film was the brainchild of Phoenix himself, who brought the project to Haynes in the first place. As a result, his last-minute exit caused the entire film to collapse, and no replacement for him was ever sought out. At the time, reports emerged that the film's producers were considering legal action against Phoenix, given the considerable time and money invested in gearing up for shooting, though at present, nothing about a possible settlement with Phoenix has been made public.